Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our great nation's economy continues to struggle, and the best opportunity that we have to put Americans back to work is utilizing our natural resources, whether that's oil in the Gulf or coal or timber. Putting Americans back to work should be our #1 priority. And in California's Central Valley, our natural resource is water. If we're going to put people back to work, we've got to get water flowing again. I would like to invite the President on his next trip to California to actually visit the Central Valley. Mr. Secretary Laird, I'd like to invite you as well. Because when you go to cities like Mendota, where you see 44% unemployment, the best way to put Americans back to work is again, our water situation and getting farming moving again. But you look at the people in the eyes as you work those food lines and talk to them and realize that you're putting Americans out of work. I think that the solution will be very, very clear. The legislation before us today is a plan to provide a reliable and sustainable water supply for the families, farmers, and communities throughout California. The water crisis in California has been a topic of discussion for decades. The problem is that there has been more talk than action. Today we're discussing a legislative plan that will provide the water necessary to drive a $30 billion economy of California, create jobs to lower the unacceptable high unemployment rate throughout the Central Valley, and continue to sustain the municipal needs of the urban residents of California. A large part of the water crisis facing California is the San Joaquin River Restoration Program. The legislation we're discussing today will repeal and replace the restoration program. With deadlines looming just 18 months away, the administration has not completed the necessary infrastructure projects to relieve the possibility of adversely impacting landowners along the San Joaquin River, let alone the environmental documentation to implement them. The infrastructure is the first step in trying to return flows to the San Joaquin River out of Friant Dam. However, the administration has made it clear that they are willing to push forward with the environmental agenda of putting salmon in the river at any cost, regardless of the damage it causes. The ill-advised restoration program has already caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage to private landowners. This legislation will replace it with actions that will restore a flowing river and not devastate an entire region in the process, including those who were not even party to the settlement that brought us this disastrous program. It's unacceptable that government continues to move forward with a program that will harm private citizens' livelihoods, especially when the settlement clearly states that there shall be no adverse impacts to third parties due to the increased flows. Actions must change. The current dumping of water from dams for flood controls is an obvious indicator that there's not sufficient water storage in California. If we cannot store the water from wet years for use during the inevitable dry years, this water crisis will forever persist. Provisions in this bill allow us to move forward with storage and end the constant study phase of these projects by finally putting people to work actually building something. In accordance with this theme, I've introduced legislation that will implement Merced Irrigation District's Common Sense project to simply modify the spillway at Exchequer Dam to generate additional 70,000 acre-feet of water and not utilize any state or federal tax dollars in the process. Yet even something as straightforward and simple as this project comes up against uncompromising environmental groups that impede legitimate solutions to the water crisis in California. This bill also seeks to modernize the Central Valley Project Improvement Act to make it more workable for users and instill certainty in its deliveries. The bill also restores some of the promises made when Congress approved the CVPIA over 20 years ago by implementing enforceable actions upon reclamation if they don't replace once and for all the 800,000 acre-feet of water that was removed from users. There isn't one person on the panel who can say the CVPIA has been a success, and the continuing to belief in policies that have proven to hinder job creation and growth must be changed. Let me be clear. I'm here to find workable solutions for all water users in California. To that end, my colleagues and I have introduced a number of measures to do so, including the bill before us today. It's time for government to act, and if they won't lead, Congress intends to show them a new way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.